Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to all, particularly those attending the CCN Conference for the first time. Starting with a few important thank yous. Thank you to our sponsors who have most generously supported our conference this year. There are, as you will see, a pleasingly large number of their posters clearly visible around the venue. From all of us to our sponsors, a very big thank you. And similarly, a very big thank you to our dedicated, hard-working, effective and efficient CCN officer team who organise our annual conference so professionally, making it so enjoyable and successful, and again this year have put together a vibrant and entertaining programme. And of course, support us so ably throughout the year. Thank you, team. We have just heard and seen on the video many of the successes and achievements that CCN have delivered over the past year. We have undoubtedly become a national and respected voice for our counties. Whilst the occasional strains in our relationship with the LGA have been well reported, the strength and shared endeavour of the County Council's network has only increased. As I address conference, for the third and final time as CCN Chairman, I'm going to set out some of the major challenges and opportunities ahead for county government. This will emphasise that our approach must, of course, build on a constructive and pragmatic relationship with central government. Building on our strong and positive relationship with the Secretary of State, Sajid Javid, who we are privileged to have addressing us later this afternoon. But accepting, of course, that on occasion we must reserve the right to challenge ministers, always in the endeavour to deliver improved outcomes for our residents and our businesses. However, if we are to succeed in this endeavour, sufficiency in funding is absolutely paramount. Our latest research clearly shows that counties have had imposed the toughest financial challenge across all of local government. And by the end of this Parliament, for instance, counties will see a 94% reduction in RSG, way above any other part of local government, which in 2020 will deliver a differential in RSG of £86 per head in inner London and only £5.95 for counties. Our services are threatened and under pressure like never before. When you look across our network, the list of service reductions in our medium-term financial plans are dramatic. Significant children's centre closures, removing the majority of supported bus routes, widespread library closures, closure of some household waste recycling centres, increasing client charges for recipients of adult social care services. The list is depressingly long. Put frankly, counties need a life raft from government over the next 2 financial years, whilst we await the introduction of the new evidence-based fair funding methodology and a workable business rate retention model. Counties have a proud track record of delivering improved, more efficient public services that do deliver better outcomes for our residents and businesses. Continuing in this direction will not be possible without some additional financial help and support from government. The elastic can be stretched no further. So what has been our ask of government in recent weeks? Our immediate request is for an extension and increase of the much welcomed transitional grant introduced by Cllr some 2 years ago that ends this financial year. This must be extended and increased for a further 2 years. Many counties across the country have been campaigning for the ability to raise additional income through a practical charging policy for selective services. This is currently inhibited in many cases by government regulation. These regulations need to be amended. Let me give you 2 simple examples. Regulation inhibits implementing a modest charge to access household waste recycling centres. It also inhibits charging a modest processing fee to receive the annual concessionary bus pass. That income that could be raised is substantial. For example, in Kent, there are 3.5 million visits to household waste recycling centres each year. A modest charge of £2 to visit could generate £7 million a year. Some 270,000 concessionary bus passes are issued in Kent every year, and charging £20 for the processing of each pass, akin to the disabled pass, could raise £5.4 million per year. Together, these would raise in Kent over £12 million, equivalent to a 2% rise in council tax, and I'm sure similar proportion to other counties. But realistically, this additional financial support will mean little if we do not see a much more fundamental redressing of the imbalances and inequities in local government funding. This afternoon, we will be hearing from Rob Whiteman from CIPFA and Duncan Whitfield from ALATS, aided and abetted by the good work of Leicestershire, discussing the promised land, a new, fair, needs-led, evidence-based funding formula for local government. For far too long, the 26 million residents in England's Shire counties have not received a fair share of national resource, exemplified by the ability of some councils to set council tax levels at under half that of the county shires. Residents in the counties of England receive, on average, £125 less per head than the national average, and extraordinarily £540 per head less than central London. This means that our Shire heartlands are receiving an eye-watering £3.2 billion less than other parts of the country for services. This is outdated and chronically unfair. Unless these inequities are addressed and supplemented by additional core funding, drawdown from the £15 billion unallocated business rate surplus, the outlook is bleak. Supported by CCN's national advocacy, local campaigns for fairer funding are spreading across the country. And together, we are galvanising the support of our local members of Parliament. The Secretary of State has rightly committed to the Fair Funding Review, and at last progress is finally being made. However, government must resist the temptation to simply reinvent and rebrand the current flawed funding formula. The new methodology must be what's written on the can, a fair and evidence-based model, as simple as possible, transparent and non-regressive, with short timelines for transition. It must at last bring greater equity for county council taxpayers across the country. And the LGA must surely support our campaign based on the fundamental principles of fairness. More on that from Lord Porter, I'm sure, later this afternoon. Our members will not settle for a fudge, and I am sure our county members of Parliament think likewise. Whilst fairness in local government funding will continue to be at the forefront of the CCN agenda, it cannot be delivered in isolation from the essential need to find a sustainable, long-term solution to funding social care. We very much welcomed Sajid Javid and Jeremy Hunt's introduction of the additional £2 billion of BCF money earlier this year. But pressures in social care have not gone away, and the urgency for reform remains. Counties, as the largest providers of social care in the country, must be fully engaged with central government in drawing up a sustainable, practical and fair solution. It is stark that the current social care means test in England entitles 28% of our elderly population to free social care support, while 72% of our elderly population have to fend and finance it themselves. This surely has to change. Enough about funding. Let's talk about the opportunities for empowering strategic counties to deliver public service reform and make a more efficient use of public money. On health and social care integration, I'm sure that we would agree that working with health partners in STP land is tough going. But there are undoubted opportunities to deliver a more effective use of the National Health Service, social care and public health pound together. And most importantly, as a consequence, deliver better care and better patient outcomes. Local government has a wealth of experience to offer our health partners. We have delivered major efficiency and transformation programmes. We have an excellent track record in financial management, commissioning and procuring intelligently, and importantly, an intimate knowledge and understanding of the capabilities of the third sector in our communities. And, of course, democratic legitimacy. We must double our efforts to make the new relationships work, as there are some that suggest that social care should be nationalised into the National Health Service. As Colin Noble, the leader of Suffolk County Council, frequently states, if social care was swept into the National Health Service, it would end up being twice as expensive and half as good. We must fully engage and not allow this to happen. Finally, the conference will debate the role of empowered strategic counties. Today, another major national think tank, Respublica, backs the case for devolution to shire counties based on county geographies and underpinned by democratically led local industrial strategies. This, of course, comes hot off the heels of the Localis report earlier this month that called for a new role for counties in influencing labour markets and skills devolution. Devolution is promised in the industrial strategy, and counties must be at the forefront. We must heed Respublica and Localis' arguments on the need to build on the strategic governance arrangements already in place in our counties. Formally adopting empowered strategic authorities at the county level would provide for consolidated governance. We could do so much more with devolved powers over skills, transport, infrastructure, health and social care. It would allow counties to deliver productive local industrial strategies, building on our strategic scale, knowledge and understanding of the general mosaic nature of our economies. Strategic authorities could also better enable two-tier areas to work together to improve existing local government service. This is particularly the case in housing, the government's biggest domestic priority. In recent announcements on housing, there are risks and opportunities. I suspect we all generally support the need to accelerate housing delivery, provided, of course, it is planned in the right locations alongside the funding for the appropriate and essentially needed infrastructure. I also suspect that most people will believe the methodology being applied to this recent significant increase in housing numbers, particularly in the southern half of England, in housing numbers, falls well short of the mark and needs to fundamentally change. More broadly, in the counties, we have statutory responsibilities to provide much of the infrastructure needed, roads, libraries, schools, care facilities, but currently have limited or no role in strategic planning. Housing growth must be planned and inextricably linked to infrastructure provision. The draft statement of common ground has possibilities, but is weak and ill-defined. But if government listens to the case being put by CCN, it has the potential to bring back strategic planning powers to our counties. Of equal importance to tackling the housing crisis is infrastructure financing. In two-tier areas where all experiencing the underfunding in the delivery of our statutory infrastructure, school expansion programme would be a prime example. We have currently no statutory role in setting appropriate tariffs and developer contributions to support this infrastructure provision. I believe that if government worked with us in two-tier areas to change the inefficient, broken current system, we could co-design a practical and sensible way forward that would enable us to significantly increase the investment in infrastructure through harvesting significantly greater development contributions that both house builders and the Treasury would welcome. In conclusion, Our message to government is, help us to help you. Yes, we need additional money to continue to maintain vital frontline services, but counties have the ambition, experience, local knowledge and democratic mandate. As Martin Hill said in the video in his message to government, trust and empower us, be brave and adventurous, and we will reward you. Thank you.